Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to podcastjuice.net. My name is Michael Dean. Joining me today is Mr. Big Sexy and Saxer. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
All right.
Got a little music going on, and courthouses opening up in a couple of weeks, and we're starting to go back to a normal semblance of society.
Okay. Also joining, and now by the time people hear this, hopefully we are back to normal society.
Yeah.
It's going to come out for a while. Also joining us is Mr. Amp Pooh. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing good. Apparently, teacher, Professor Dean, said, hey, we got the quiz Saturday morning, so I need you to finish up the 150 pages by then. So the boy is a little tired because he stayed up late and got up early to finish this book, but I'm happy to be a part of the show.
All right. Well, thank you for putting in that extra work, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I just hope I don't get no doc because I didn't complete it.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. All right. Well, what we are here to do, as you see in the title, we are going to give our thoughts and review of the new BrownMark book, My Life in the Purple Kingdom. This is BrownMark with Cynthia M. Urich, and then it has a foreword by Mr. Questlove. And we've had the opportunity. So I'm going to let you know now, you're hearing this probably closer to the release of the book, but we're actually recording this. When is it now? May? Yeah, we're at the end of May, so we're recording this now. And I would suspect that the version of the book that we have read, which was provided for review, may be slightly changed for the release. At least I hope there's some more edits, because I did notice one little thing that was a sort of a glaring mistake, but nitpicking, but I just want to put that out. So as you hear us talking about this, I don't know what will have happened between now and September. If something crazy happens and like, why are they going in so hard? Or why? Listen, we're just, why in context, we don't know whatever happens later. So that's why we're talking about it. With that said, let's get this thing started. So let's just go around the room, man. I'm going to start with, Big Sexy, actually. Just give us your initial, your thoughts on this book without doing any spoilers right now. But what did you think of My Life in the Purple Kingdom?
Geez, without doing any spoilers, Mark was pretty candid in his story, considering a lot of these things took place, 30 years ago. He was, he talks about his youth and learning how to play his instrument. And I mean, without spoiling and going into particular detail,
you can do a little detail, but just we want to give those who haven't read the book a chance to hear our thoughts about it before we go all the way in.
Okay, it could have been a little longer because he really concentrated on his life in the Purple Kingdom. He made that real clear in the title, and that's what he really concentrates on. He mentions, a couple of things. One thing he didn't mention, which I kind of felt surprised me, was an opportunity he had near the end of his time with Prince to play with another big pop star, and that didn't even come up, which surprised me. I didn't know he was a bit of a wild child off, out behind the scenes with his cars and whatnot. One thing he did do, that's a spoiler, I'll leave that alone. I did enjoy how he admitted to his own culpability in certain things. Back when he was working with Maserati, he was told one thing by the place he was staying, and they said, look, none of this tomfoolery. And of course they did it and got kicked out. Things happen. And it's really hard without getting into detail. Go ahead. Someone else go ahead so I can have an idea of what we're talking, how deep we're going to go here.
Okay. Did you like the book? Hello?
Oh.
Wow, this.
I liked it, but on the scale of, the DMSR book being near the top,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to mention any names, the hairdresser being near the rock bottom, this could have been better.
Berry.
Okay, Kim, this is closer to Kim than it is to anything Per Nielsen did. It could have been edited better. There are glaring things like, for instance, and again, this is probably being just a nitpick, but Ford doesn't make an F-50, so no. And Chevy doesn't make an Oldsmobile or Cutlass Supreme, excuse me.
Interesting.
So some of the things like that. A couple of the stories strain credibility. At points, there's this one issue where he slept with a certain weapon under his bed. Really? Really?
Hey, we're gonna get into that. BrownMark is strapped up. That's my man.
He has his ups and downs. One of the ups, which I didn't know, is that when he came into the band, he didn't have his own equipment. Prince said, "Look, use Andre stuff, and get up there and play." And what you think is really nice, and then right after that, there was an incident that brought him back to earth. And that incident, for me, we have to fight. I'm sorry, I don't care who it is. There's a quote that Kenny Stabler said years ago, back in the 76 playoffs. There was a player, and bear with me on this one. There's a player named George Atkinson, and he walked up to Russ Francis on the other team and broke his nose. And Kenny said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "Look, man, I'm 5'10". That dude's 6'5". I had to let him know it was going to be like that today." Now, applying this to BrownMark, same thing would have happened with me. Now, granted, the height difference is in my favor, but I'd have to let Prince know it's going to be like this today, man. He violated. If that happened, we got a problem. Period.
All right. We'll come back. We're going to come back. Aunt Pooh, what are your thoughts on the book so far that you have read?
Yeah, I'm about 75% through the book. I'm at the part where BrownMark goes into details about how Kiss went from a Maserati song to a Revolution song. We were lucky to have interviewed him, so I know the full story on that. But up until that point, I thought it was a really good book, and it's going. Yeah, I've put it just below Morris's book as far as some of the books that have come out of the Prince camp. For me, when I get these books, and what I'm really looking for is I want to hear about Prince. I want to hear about what was going on, what he was doing, the interaction. But he really starts from his childhood through high school, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of things that when you see BrownMark on these stages, when you see him in an interview, he seems very mild-mannered, very tempered, but he got into some shit. And it's just it's kind of refreshing because he doesn't really, the other thing is that I really love is he does not paint himself to be this end-all be-all, man, I could have been as big as Prince if he hadn't screwed me, or man, I had it. He lets you know. He learned how to play bass, I guess, by hearing it and then getting the opportunity with someone that was in Minneapolis. And, he thought he was good, but he was shocked that people thought he was this really great person. He realized when he got with Prince that there was so much to learn. He was very grateful, even though at times Prince was a hard ass like a mother. And that was really refreshing, hearing the stories that was going on in high school, some of the things that he was messing with, learning about Mama Vader.
Yeah,
it was really, really interesting. And if you're there to hear all of BrownMark's story, there's some stuff in there that just makes you think about, the way you handle success, the interactions of what's going on the road. Those were some really great stories, and again, you're there to learn about the Prince stuff, but he's telling you about being out in Alabama with Big Chick and some of the stuff that was popping off. He's telling you about growing up in Minneapolis, and you think that, okay, you hear about, in Minneapolis, it wasn't all that crazy about black folks. He tells you how not crazy about black folks Minneapolis was. And then, some of the interactions with women. There's a story at a car dealership. And there's just a lot that, when he's not talking about being on the road with Prince or working with Prince or creating this music with Prince, it is really interesting stuff that just make you go like, what the? he's led a very interesting life, which probably only say that because of the fact that who he is and who he's worked with. That I'm quite sure millions of other people have had some of these similar interactions. But it's just really the way it was written is really draws you in and makes you keep turning the page to learn about him and his life. And the last thing I'll say before this is he talks about his father being in the army, and how after being moved from one place to one place, the mother ended up going to Minneapolis to be with his father's family. And then when he starts talking about it, and we can go into it a little bit further in the spoiler section, you really just get the sense that he's really talking about, and in my opinion, giving some game about, raising your kids, having a family, how much that means. So there's a lot to this book if you're really there for the totality of BrownMark's life, as opposed to just, I want to hear about Prince and all that drama. I like this book. I thoroughly recommend it.
Wow.
And I ain't even done with it yet.
Right.
Wow.
Let me say, you really brought it home. It's for a lot of what I thought of the book. Man, so I have to commend you for that. I thought it was a great breakdown. I'll just say this. I agree with most of what Ampu said. I think looking at this book, I enjoyed the stories, particularly the Prince stuff, but even more so, as Ant said, the before Prince stuff, and just BrownMark being this black boy growing up in that particular time, and then, Minnesota and all of that. This was probably the blackest Prince book we've read so far in terms of giving you or showing you what was going on and dealing with some of the more overtly racism type of things, and even going into the club scene or the musician world out there in Minneapolis, and the opportunities that were and were not given to black musicians in that town. And one thing I will say, I'm glad that it's coming from somebody from the revolution that they respect a lot, because a lot of the stuff that he is explaining that he experienced sort of contradicts, in my mind, sort of the narrative or the way that they sort of try to push the Minneapolis scene during that time. And he paints a picture that, they wasn't giving us a lot of opportunities, and it was just crazy. And even like, just to go into detail of one of the stories where he was coming out of First Avenue well after the success, and a truck of skinheads run up on them in the streets. I thought it was like, wow, Minneapolis, they get it in over there, and I laughed at the gun stuff earlier, but I was laughing throughout this book. Anytime BrownMark was talking about, I was strapped, and homie pulled out the 357 Magnum. I had the pistol grip shotgun. These fans is crazy. I was like, dang. I was like, am I reading, Have Gun Will Travel Death Row stories or something? Like, what's going on in Minneapolis? But so I thought it was very insightful, and just for all the things you said, could it be better written? Yes. Could it have been longer? Of course. I think that's a shortcoming of the book to me, is that I wanted to know just as much as he gave some of the Prince stuff. I wanted to know what happened after that. Like, he goes into some Motown things, but you never really, there had to be more going on there. He had a whole second album that Prince had songs on. How did that come? Now, if you listen to the interview, he tells you, but I wanted to read that in the book, just as detailed he was going in of his life prior to Prince in the book. I wanted to hear the after part of it. I wanted to, and if he did speak and I don't remember, I wanted to hear how he felt when he got the news Prince was gone, and what was it like to get the band back together to go back out on the road and stuff. I wish they could add that to the book. I just think it would bring it home. If he did have that, I think this book would be one of the best books about Prince. Coming from somebody who was in the biggest band that Prince had, that everyone seems to acknowledge, the Revolution. So I thought it was great, man. I was reading it, and I'm like, this is kind of like if Star Wars did a story about Yoda growing up, but it was not from Yoda's perspective, but it was from like one of his students. It was like Yoda probably was going hard, Like you saw a little bit of Yoda going hard at Luke in Empire Strikes Back, you know, just real, but he was an old man. He's not ready. But Willard, a young Yoda, probably was like slick tongue and was probably going in. And that's how I saw this book. I was like, some people are going to have issues with the depiction of Prince, but those are only the people, in my opinion, who just don't want to see him as a real person. Like, we are all human beings, and we all have good days, we have bad days. There are times in our lives when we've been assholes to people, and we know it. Well, some of us may have did somebody wrong back in the day, or did a chick wrong or something. And, you know, that was part of your life. You grew up, you changed. It's the same way I look at Prince. I was like, he was on some shit back then. He had a lot going on. When we look at his history of his life, you can understand why he might have been acting like that. The same with BrownMark. I was listening to him. The stuff he's talking about with women, and I thought he was very honest I didn't trust women, or this is, you know, he's talking about sexual assaults or false flag Me Too incidents. I was like, damn, what's going on? So I felt like, you know, I was like, man, this is an honest look. I wish he'd went more. Does it make Prince look like a saint? No, but he's not. He's a man. Like, he did great things, which are acknowledged in the book, and he did maybe some not so great things, but that's just normal stuff that people do. I think we get a better understanding of all of this if they just be more honest, which I feel like this book kind of does. So I like the book. We're going to get into more spoiler stuff now and really go into some of the things that were in the book. I want to ask this one question. This is something I see all the time, and I'm seeing it now with BrownMark. Here's the fan that's going to say, well, why are they doing this now after he's dead? How come they didn't do it when he was alive? You want to know why they didn't do it when he was alive? Because they would have got sued. Okay? Prince would have sent a cease and desist. He would have shut that shit down. If you don't know that Prince wasn't playing them games back when he was alive, then I don't know what kind of fan you are. Now, do you think you're doing something new by asking that question? No, we already know that. Water is wet. So that's why them books didn't come out back then. You're not saying nothing new. But see, when you pass and you're not here no more, people can do whatever the hell they want to do. It is what it is. There's people. You don't got no control over nobody. So if this man want to sit here and tell his story, or Kim Berry or whoever else, that's what they can do. Now, you don't have to buy it. You really don't have to like it. But we already know that. We don't care. You dig? So, and if you listen to the interview that we did with BrownMark a couple of years ago, right? He said he wrote this book 10 years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I did. I don't remember him saying 10 years, but I did remember him saying that he had a book. Yeah. Yeah,
he said he wrote it almost 10 years ago. But either here nor there, let's get into some of the specific parts. First thing I wanted to just start with, just to jump right into it, and I think Big Sexy was alluding to it, the rehearsal with Prince, and this would have been before the Rolling Stone thing. And the rehearsal with BrownMark, I think it's like the first rehearsal, I believe, when BrownMark comes in and he picks up the bass and he starts playing it, and he's describing, like, he's like, yeah, this is good, man. I'm getting with these cats. And then he describes a very sharp pain in the back. And then he realizes that Prince has kicked the shit out of him. Like, physically kicked him with his high heel boots.
In the ass.
Yeah, some people say drop kick. And you turn around like, what the fuck? What the hell's going on? And then Prince run up on him, and he says, what, he pulled his ear and pulled him down. He pulled his earlobe, pulled him down to the level and said, play the motherfucking bass or something before I get somebody else in here that can do it better, or something like that. Now, I read that. I was in shock. I was like, whoa, my man's getting violent, putting hands on people. But it was at that moment when BrownMark should have turned around and bitch slapped the hell out of Prince. I'm not a man of violence. I love me some Prince, but there's no man, or anybody for that matter, should be able kicking people in their ass on their job, talking crazy in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know where that's now. I can understand a young BrownMark how he let that slide. I can understand his reasoning. Not to say that I would have done it, but I can understand why he would have said. But I was kind of shocked too, because listening to the background of his life, what he talked about, and he wasn't one to run from a situation per se. I guess he just had enough, I don't know, common sense, or he just weighed, you know what, me slapping the shit out of this dude or beating his ass, or me becoming a star and being in this super group and the whole thing. Maybe he could see, you know what, it's not worth it. I take it for the team. But I'm just saying, I think at that point is when I'm speculating. Prince was like, oh, okay, this cat, he gonna let me get away with this. Watch how I get down. But I don't know. That was a shocking moment in the book to me. Big Sexy, what would you thought about that thing?
Again, this is controversy Prince, not a Purple Rain Prince, kicking people in the butt. Now, I understand, like you said, when you're young and you really think this is a big opportunity, that's fine. But goddamn it, at the end of the day, you got to live with yourself. And I'm as big a Prince fool as anybody on the planet. But just for me personally, there is no possible way that a man 5'2" is going to walk up and kick me in the ass and I'm going to take it. Period. I guess I'm fired then, because I'm kicking the shit out of him. Now, granted, Prince wanted more of a louder bass style, which Mark wasn't doing, and that's fine. And Mark admits that, but that's not how you get it out of him, man. Now, if you got something critical you need to say, you pull him to the side. Hey, man, I need you to hit a little harder. That's fine. But to come up like that and just punk you in front of your brand new bandmates, no. We're gonna fight. It's that simple. We're gonna fight, and either we're gonna agree to not let it get into this shit again, or I'm fired. But I'm not taking this, because all that does, like you said, it lets Prince know that, oh, shit, I can get away with this? Well, what else can I do to this guy? No, absolutely not. Opportunities be damned, because, in my field, I can't see something like that happening. But if it did, we have to go. If some, I guess like congressman or federal judge pulled me aside at some event and put hands on me like that, I'm kicking his ass. So be it. Because I'm of the opinion that you don't put hands on someone and not expect a receipt at some point. So if you're bad enough to do it, you're bad enough to deal with what comes with it. And I'm not letting that slide on any circumstance. It's not about being macho or being the baddest apple in the barrel. No, it's not about that at all. It's about basic human respect. Do not put your hands on me if I have not put my hands on you. That simple. If you like something I've done, tell me and we'll fix it. That shit is unacceptable. No way, no how.
It almost it reminds me of something I've, like when you're reading the books about death row and Suge,
Yep.
I was like, damn, Prince and their Suge people, like this was back in the early 80s. Like, damn, would he have came with that same energy if it was a female?
According to Sinead McCartney would have.
Hilarious.
Now, the conspiracy brother in me would say, did he do the white dudes like that?
Hilarious.
I'm
but I ain't got no words for you. I know the comment section is going ham, but that's okay. You'll be all right.
But Mark, I think you're going to feel this a little bit. Jim Ross, he's a commentator. He was a VP of WWE. And he has a history of being humiliated and shitted on by Vince McMahon, the chairman of the WWE. At some point, my anger towards what was being done to him by Vince McMahon and WWE became like, well, nigga, just leave.
You took it. Yeah.
You stood there and took you took it for a paycheck. So at some point, like, why am I feeling sorry for someone more than he's feeling sorry for himself and not leaving and not being in a situation? So yeah, I'm looking at Prince like, come on, dude, you ain't have to do that youngin' like that. What's wrong with you? But after, year 2, I'm sitting there like, you value that paycheck more than you value your humility. I think that's the right word. your pride, So I'm like, why am I going to feel sorry for you? You staying there. And it's not like he got to a point where he was staying there because he had no other options. He mentioned he got offered by Rick James and Miles Davis triple the amount. So I'm like, yeah, that's bad, but you staying there. So I mean, you want me to feel sorry for you?
And I don't think he was, at least to me, it didn't seem like he was asking us to feel sorry for him. And it did. Do I feel? Well, I'll say this: do you feel like he was being bitter at all in the book?
No, I don't think he was bitter. I think he was really just laying it out for, this is what it was, and this is what I dealt with, and I wanted to be in this band, so that's what it cost.
And it's like I guess I need to take some of that back, because I'm like, yeah, I say that, but then when he's detailing about how it made him feel, some of the depression he went under, yeah, it's probably a little unfair for me to say it at that part like that. But again, we make choices, and he was betting on Prince's celebrity, Prince's influence, the stardom of Prince to rise us all up. It's kind of like with 50, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get put on, and then we all gonna get put on. Jay-Z and Nelly. So I guess he was just having a faith, and it's like, okay, this is just a part of me getting to where I want to be. He was already working on Maserati, like 82, 83, which shocked me. I'm like, oh, because I was hearing about 85, 86-ish, and he had this back 2-3 years earlier. So I mean, sometimes you do, bite your tongue and just take a little bit of bullshit to get where you want to go.
And the thing is, though, from a strictly financial standpoint, he got opportunity to play with Rick James and the Stone City Band. And this would have been right around 81, 82, when Rick was at the height of his powers, and for triple the money, and you don't take it, I'm looking at you, man. And
yeah, I think I think the Rick James thing was actually just before Purple Rain, I believe he said.
Now, if this is the Glow Rick James, you made the right call. But if this is like what Cold-Blooded Rick James, you got to think about it.
Yeah, because I don't think they were when Prince was touring with Rick James, it was Andre was in the band, so Mark wasn't even around. Yeah. But just to jump around a couple of other points, and I know we'll get into that. The other thing I thought was funny, there's a lot of stuff that was shocking to me. When he even talks about sort of flirting with the pimp game, I thought that was great. I was like, what? I was like, what? It's like, yeah, it's a girl named Candy or something. My boys taught me how to run game on her. I was like, my man's funny. But what comes out of that, right? He talks about he didn't have the heart for the game. He wasn't built for it. I respect that. And he was like, no, I don't want to put this girl on the track, or not with that. Matter of fact, I'm telling her I'm cool with it because she wants to do it. And then what happens? He says she threatens and goes and tells people that he gave her an STD and raped her. And then he damn near gets expelled from school and all this other. It was just I was like, man, he was going through some shit, man. Like, and this is in the teenage years. Dealing with stuff like this. And then he talked about something where it almost made it seem like he was sexually assaulted by a woman.
Yeah, one of the not roadies, one of the groupies. Snuck into his hotel room and just jumped on him. He's like, we're gonna do this. And he's like, we are? Yeah, it was. And she did his thing to him.
And then he was kind of like, he kind of felt a certain kind of way about women for a little bit. So I'm just gonna see them as sexual objects. I don't necessarily trust them. I thought that was a very revealing thing to come out with. I would have never expect him to go in that direction and talk about stuff like that. It had nothing to do with the Prince, but it just goes into me when you think about things that people go through in life and what sort of shapes the actions they do. And even just him dealing with all the racism stuff. Again, talking about being confronted by people. Go ahead, Ample.
Oh no, I wasn't saying anything. No.
So yeah, I found his life story before Prince very revealing, and I was all into it. Like, I was like, man, okay. I just came with a super respect for dude. I was like, I thought he was corny at first. I can admit that. But I'm like, he's cool as fuck. I was like, man, damn, okay. This dude, he might be one of the realest ones in the camp. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then he just, talking about, what was another thing I thought was funny was he going to Los Angeles with Prince and Morris Day. And he didn't say her last name, but I was wondering, is he talking about Ola Ray?
Yeah,
I was thinking that too. I was thinking that too.
I'm not going that far.
But I just thought that was a hilarious story. I could hear Morris. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could totally see that happening. Like, I was thinking to myself, if they ever have a movie, which I'm sure they will at some point in my lifetime, I hope they mine some of these stories. I just think they're hilarious. Like, even the whole, what was it, his first time seeing Vanity? Roller skating. I was like, damn, I would have probably been the same way. Like, God damn, what that? There was a lot of cool Prince type stuff in there too. I know we're going to get into some more of the Prince stuff, but I thought it was kind of cool. Even his first meeting with Prince, just he was a cook, and I was like, okay.
Oh, I thought you was going to talk about the fact that he thought he was going to get butt broken.
Hilarious. I'm gonna let you tell that one. Go ahead.
So the way it goes is that Mark was rehearsing with his band. And then all of a sudden, at this rec center, I believe it was, he gets a phone call. And they're like, yeah, phone call from BrownMark. And he's like, who the hell's calling me here? He gets on the phone and it's Prince. And he's thinking they BS. And he's like, yo, I want you to come audition for me. My drummer Z is going to come pick you up. He's going to bring you to the house. He goes back and he says he's heard all these wild stories, these sex things about Prince. And he goes back and they're like, who was that? And he's like, yo, it's Prince. His band was fighting. He was like ready to get away from them. And he was debating whether he should tell them because he was like, they don't hate on me. And then when he does tell them, they get to saying like, Prince is bringing you to his place. Man, you better watch it. He may try to initiate you. I hear he's kind of gay. He may try to fuck you. And, you better watch yourself when you get up there. So he gets in his own head. Bobby Z comes to pick him up and is driving him. He's sitting there like, oh shit, is this the guy that's gonna bring me in? And I think Bobby Z said like, good luck, make sure. He said something that he mistook as like Prince might be doing something funny with him. So he goes to the whole rehearsal. He comes to the warehouse. He goes to the whole rehearsal. Prince tells him to wait there, and he's gonna go upstairs and change. And Marcus is like, "What the fuck?" Like, he's just all in his own head, thinking Prince about ready to come down and proposition him. And then, like 2 hours later, I'm thinking Prince was probably smashing somebody. Prince comes down and is like, "Yeah, you got the job." So then Prince is going to take him home. And he's still like, okay, when is he going to try to fuck me type thing? And I'm just looking like, wow, it's amazing how you just let bullshit and rumors get to you so much that you get in your own head and just paranoid and just like on edge waiting for something bad to happen. But to me, that's a hell of a story. And if they do the movie, I want that because I just can't imagine this dude really trying to rehearse thinking Prince is going to try to fuck him. Just butt break him. Let's say it like that.
Wow. And that's cats in his own hometown where these rumors are going around. So imagine people that don't have nothing to do with Prince. Yeah, that's wild shit. It was funny.
And the thing that was interesting about it is it's like, we just hearing him going on about being in high school, getting out of high school, trying to get this band. And then all of a sudden he just gets a call from Prince. Hey, I want you to rehearse. And the thing that it is, and I think to me, one of the important stories is that always be on your game because you never know who's watching. I don't think this is somebody, I think this was one of the first people that wasn't in the whole Prince circle. Cause you have Prince, then Morris, they had Flight Time and all those cats. It seems to me that Mark didn't know none of these people. He didn't have any connection to the Prince world, but the Prince world found him. So it's like, yo, you never know who's watching. So make sure you are on point.
Yeah. And his boys or the other band members, like you said, some of them was hating. Like, and he knew, like, if I go in there and tell him Prince just called me. It's gonna be a problem going back into this rehearsal. And didn't one of the cats pull a gun out on him?
Yep.
Like that shit, they was on some. That's why I said they was on some other stuff, man. And he had to stand up to that. And he was, he'd break away and just, hey, I got to make a move. I got to see what this is. And he was working at like 7-Eleven. He even talked about going to his job, or Bobby was going to meet him at the job. And the boss came outside and said, what you doing? You better get in there and get dressing. He's like, man, I got my destiny over here. Opportunity. Fuck you talking about? Go in here and make Slurpees.
Get that Slurpee.
Yeah. That's why he was a hustler, man. I had to give him, like, he was hustling. He talked when he had the cars he had, and he was driving people around, making money. He had a job.
He started up with 8 or 9 trying to figure out how to hustle his first bass guitar. Yeah. So like respect to him. And and I highlighted this because he was saying when he was starting to make some money, he didn't have a father. He didn't have a role model to really show him. He didn't have any financial guidance. And I'm looking like, wait a minute. How are you saying that when you had your moms? Your moms was working all these hours. Now, maybe she didn't really, guide him by the hand and teach him all of that. But I'm like, you had your moms. The moms, came to Minneapolis, was struggling for a little bit. She got her a nice government job, moved them out to a better area, bought a home, bought a car. So I'm looking like, yo, put some respect on Mama Vader's name. She was showing you. She might not have told you, but she showed you.
For sure. And she wasn't playing no games either.
Oh, hell no.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
One of the other funny stories was, I can't think of her name, but the girl that he inadvertently invited to prom.
Oh, forgot about that. Yeah, those are just great stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking like, oh my God, that had to traumatize her. And then finds out, can you imagine what that woman must have been thinking a couple of years later when she finds out that he's in Prince's band? And she's like, damn, But at least he was man enough to admit, like, damn, I screwed that up. I thought I had a future with her, and I effed it up not reading the signs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I was just saying, there's more game and more life lessons up in there, about navigating your life.
Yes, for sure. Let's go to Purple Rain. And even 1999, I think actually knows the 1999 tour. It seemed like that was when from his perspective, Prince was starting to kind of get at him a little bit.
Yes.
And maybe he was getting, and he even says he might have been getting at everybody, but just from my perspective, it seemed like he was turning more of his attention toward me, and not necessarily in a good way, like, the attitude and saying shit. And I can only look at it. I would imagine, again, Prince was hella young. They were all young, and this is a lot of fame and stuff coming at you. I can only imagine, he's learning how to deal with this just like anybody else. And again, looking at his upbringing and how things were, I could see how when all of a sudden you got the power, you got the juice, you got money, and all these people here work for you, you might start talking crazy to people, or you might be, maybe he is just irritated or having a bad day and just start going in on cats. So I can understand that. I'm not trying to cape for him, but again, I'm not like shocked by it. I guess that's what I say, because that happens to a lot of people that all of a sudden blow up and then they start acting funny style at times. And it looked like Prince. Like, see, the thing is, you can look at a lot of the history of it, and if somebody said, well, man, Prince kicked this dude in his ass and then pulled his ears down and talking crazy to him, and then you go all the way to like that video clip of Miko and Prince about to get into it, and I can look at him and say, you know what? My man probably was getting at cats. Like, he probably was talking slick at times, and he probably can run up on you and be on some shit. That's his get down sometimes. And there's probably, when he was younger, he was probably a little more harder at it, but it doesn't surprise me. It's just, we don't get to hear that much about it. So when you do hear about it, I think it jumps out at you. And in this book, a lot of that kind of jumps out. I will say this, some of it, I think Prince did kind of do him dirty a little bit, but that's life. I mean, shit happens.
Now, to that point where he tells the story about at the 1999 tour, where he said that he saw in the audience someone said, "We love BrownMark." Now, to me, I just thought this was just good-natured ribbing and clowning. And he's like, "Oh, y'all like BrownMark? Oh, you think he's fine? But does he has an ass like mine?" And I'm looking like, "Oh, okay." Which I was like, "Oh, that's where that came from." Okay, but I'm just thinking like, he's just, give. For me, I probably would have just joked it off. But he took that person. He was like, "Yo, I finally made it. They actually showing me love up in there," and Prince took it away. And I'm just looking like, I can't tell you how to feel in that moment. I probably be like, you got me. But I'm gonna smash them after the show. Watch.
It really depends without actually seeing it, because I could write it off as it was a one-off joke. But then you got to think, he's clowning you in front of everybody, though. And then I could see how a cat might get in his feelings. But then he talks about when they had the tour bus leave him behind at the hotel.
Hey, you said be on time.
It's just I was like, yeah, okay. I could maybe give you a pass on that one. But damn, now you're going to clown me in front of all the fans?
But, okay, I mean, again, I can't tell someone how to feel. I look at it, but does he have an ass like mine? I'm like, okay, well, no, I probably don't. But that still don't mean they don't think I'm fine. And I mean, to me, I just be like, okay, you want some weirdo shit, Prince? What the fuck? But I'm a smash after the show.
Hilarious. And I'm not disagreeing. Again, we got to remember, this is also the man that kicked you in the ass. And he wasn't joking when he did that. You're going to be in your feelings. Your radar is going to be up. It's like, oh, this nigga, he think he okay. So I can understand when you put it all you start going down the line where I could see like, man, dude's wild. Let me stay out of his view. I don't want him to turn no attention toward me because I don't want to get the wrath of it. So I can get that. Again, he stays there though. BrownMark ain't leaving the group. He stayed but going to Purple Rain. So when you get to the Purple Rain part, he said something in the book that I never heard of before, but he described that he was going to have a scene in a movie with Susan from Vanity 6, and they was going to be married, or their characters are married. And then he was talking about they had to rehearse, I guess, like an intimate scene or something.
Yeah, I want to see that Purple Rain. Like, forget the Snyder cut. I want the original Purple. I want the Vanity cut. That's the one I want.
Well, shit. Now you're giving me an idea. Shit. Maybe we need to start the hashtag and get the uncut Purple Rain going. Force Warner Brothers to put that out.
Yeah, put that on HBO Max.
There you go. With the barn scene.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
But I mean, that story was funny too, and he just. It seemed like maybe it was just a carryover. He was like, damn, chicks are feeling him too. Like he said, I'm supposed to be the hottest MFer up here. And cut all of his lines, which I'm just looking like, damn, I know he might have practiced, but you really think BrownMark was going to outshine you in Purple Rain? Like, come on,
in your own movie? Yeah.
I don't know. That definitely was taking it too far. But yeah. And then he going out to see everything. He was just talking a gang of mess about it and he thought the movie was bad, which I was like, wait a minute, really? I don't know what it was going through his head, but I don't understand how anyone that saw that film could have thought it was bad. And he said he was astounded when they got an applause at the premiere.
Well, I can only think that because he's in that world, he probably doesn't. You don't understand why it would be special to somebody else, the outsider, to visually see Prince and all of that on the screen. He probably, and I would imagine he wasn't the only one in the camp that thought that, because all he's seen is probably just them making it, bits and pieces, and he's like, the acting was. I'm using some of the acting he saw was shoddy. He didn't hear the music with it. It's not cut together. And he's in that camp, so he's probably, why would they be tripping on us like that? I mean, I know Prince is a star, but we ain't never did this shit before. They didn't even think it was going to be nothing. So I can imagine them sitting there surrounded by all of these superstars and watching it and like, man, I don't know, whoa, I'm on the screen. This is crazy. And then getting up when everybody starts clapping at the end. I can see why he could be surprised. because they didn't know it was. I don't think none of them knew it was going to be that big. They hadn't even seen the movie. He said he hadn't even seen it at that point. So I can understand it. I think it's remarkable hearing it as a fan. Like, wow, are you serious? But listening to his story, I could see why he may have felt like, and then feeling like he got burned out of it. So he could have been kind of hating a little bit too. Like,
he's like, I hope this shit ain't good.
This ain't gonna be shit. Watch him clown him. This is what he get. But yeah, it's interesting to see the vantage point of it, because that was a moment. That was when things changed. Like, well, okay, this is about to be big. Then they go on that tour, and I want to fast forward to the end of the tour where they get them bonus checks.
Woo!
Did he say that?
Talk about that.
Yeah. Did he say the tour made possibly like $100 million or something?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but let's say it means gang of money. And he started doing numbers in the book like, oh, okay, if we got this percentage, we're going to probably get like 5 million or 1.5. And the way it reads and the way I can imagine him saying it when I was reading that part, it was so hilarious to me when he's like, yeah, I saw 1.5. And I was like, woohoo. Yeah. No, somebody else opened their check, but I didn't want to open mine. So I, got by myself and opened it. And I realized it's like, that's not 1.5 million. That's like $15,000. I laughed when I read that part. I was like, Prince is a cold piece. I was like, you niggas ain't getting no money.
And the thing is, this was at the end of the tour. He had all these opportunities to do all these different things, which he did not take. He gets shortchanged on this tour, and then he still goes back, and then he gets pushed, to the back of the stage. Oh, hell no, man.
You think they should have got more on those tour checks?
I think there should have been a discussion. I think you go in before you take that tour, you go in knowing what you're going to get. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the way he's saying it is that the tour made about around $100 million, and that if they got 5%, the Revolution would get $5 million. So he was thinking like, yeah, my cut should be about one. Or that's why he was thinking like one. But what made it even more so, like really bad was like, I don't do the accounting. Go talk to the accountant. But then
I laughed when I read that.
But then he starts working on Paisley Park. So there's your money.
And that's your taste blood. Oh yeah.
It's like I bet Prince talked to that accountant. Got to make sure his check was right. I was like,
I was like, it's a dirty game. You ain't the first, and you damn sure ain't gonna be the last. I was like, nigga, you got TLC. You was the original TLC. He gave you a RAV5 and said, keep on and show up for rehearsal next week, nigga.
Essentially, that's what that money would have bought to.
Yeah, I say you got TLC. The cold part to me is, I actually saluted Prince. I just thought it was funny. He was like, Mark, man, we're going to do Paisley Park, man. Stick with this. Going to be ours, Mark. You dig? You'll be able to come in the studio and record anytime. This is going to be legacy, Mark. Come on.
And produce all these acts.
Yeah. I was like, Prince was the one pimping. I thought that book was hilarious. Every time Prince said something just crazy like that, I laughed when I was reading it. I just thought it was hilarious because I could see it. Like I could hear him saying it just in a very like calm voice. Like, you got to go talk to the. I don't deal with the money, Mark. You have to go talk to the.
I'd be like, I would have got the phone like, nigga, you talk to the accountant and get my check right.
I'd have been like, no, I need that. That same energy you had when you kicked me in my ass. I need that same energy right now because I'm about to kick you in your ass. And I'd have pulled in your ear. Where's my motherfucking cash, nigga? Damn that.
I see. This is where I want to hear Bobby and Fing, Wendy and Lisa tell this story too, because I want to know what they were expecting. They thought, yeah, and I want to know what they got, because you never know.
That's true.
But I mean, to that point, when you're talking about him, you having these things happen to him and kind of like dealing with it. I'm reminded of when he went to go buy that Trans Am. Now, when he goes in there, he wants to Trans Am. The salesperson on the floor is kind of like ignoring him, thinking he ain't got no money. He's like, I want to buy the Trans Am. They're like, with what? Like, you got a job. And then he walks off. So then he's standing there. So he's standing, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, nigga, why didn't you leave?
Exactly.
But then I hear it's the last one in the state of Minnesota. I'm like, okay, maybe. I'm like, all right, maybe.
No,
but then I said maybe. But then the other person comes up there and gives him the ride, like, you got a job, how much will you make? How you gonna pay for this? Da 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 da. And I was just looking like, okay, nigga, leave. Get the fuck out of there. They just blatantly disrespect. And he's talking about how, yeah, I'm gonna show them. I'm like, you gonna show them by giving them your money? Okay, fine. I mean, if that makes the point. Now he did end up, because the original salesperson ended up, flying around and doing whatever he needed, getting Mark whatever he wanted, getting the car ready, all this other stuff. He did end up saying, like, I'll buy the car, but he can't get a commission. I don't like the way he behaved. So I'm like, all right, you bossed up just a little bit. You still gave him your money.
Exactly.
So it was kind of like, I don't know, Mark, that story ain't working in your favor.
No, it is not.
No, and he was young, and like I said, I think if the older person, he'd be like, I'm not giving these people my money.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think when you are young, because I'm kind of reminded of that episode of A Different World when Whitley went into the shop and she kind of bought something. She ended up buying like $10,000-$15,000 worth of stuff, and people were like, "You can't afford that. You probably could afford 1,000, but not 15." And it was just like, "Yeah, I showed them," and then people were like, "How did you show them? You put $15,000 in their pocket." But I'm thinking, like, when you're young, I think you get into that defiance, like, oh, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna buy the whole thing, I'm gonna show you how balling I am. And it's like, okay, you're not thinking, bruh. They got the money, they went in.
Yeah, the only way you would have showed them is, I think it was a Morris Day, buy the whole place and fire that man. That would have been the only way if you bought the dealership out and just fired all of them. But what was the other part that was just funny to me? I can't remember if it was the Purple Rain tour or the 1999, but he felt like every time he was on stage, there was no light on him. He was always in the dark.
Yeah, it was Purple Rain.
Oh, it's Purple Rain. He's like,
Purple Rain and it was Parade. He was always in the dark.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I thought maybe I was tripping, so I started watching the videos playback, and sure enough, I was in the dark. So I went to the light guy. Hey man, in my life. Oh yeah. We'll fix it next time. And then it keeps happening. And he finally goes to Prince about it. And Prince is like, oh yeah, Mark, that was some mistake. I'll make sure that gets fixed. Okay. And then it happens again. And then he's incensed, like goes back to like, hey man, what the fuck is wrong with my sound? He's like, look, Mark, I've been instructed to turn the lights off on you. I died when I heard it. I was like, why they do my man? That's so petty. I was just like, damn. That's a petty ass move, but I was like, that's my man.
All I know is the Purple Army are going to be heated in the comments on this. And my thing is like, all I'm going to tell you is this video. Go watch those fucking shows and tell me he lying.
In fact, if you look at some of those Parade shows, you don't see Mark at all unless you are actively looking for him. Because the front line had, Wally and Jerome and Brooks. Then behind them was the piano. Behind the piano was Mark. Like, damn.
Here's what they think about you. Yeah, it was a cold. And he kind of said something about that too. He's like, it sounded like Vegas music. I was like, I know you mad. I was like, I can understand you mad, but I was like, bro, that shit was slamming. Stop. But I get it. He's in the band and it's totally different. All these different people. And go ahead.
Now, question, because I didn't get to it. I'll read it later. But did he address his departure from the Revolution? Because the story in two books, Alex Hahn and Pierre Nielsen, is that Prince wanted him to stay and he declined. Did he speak on that and address that and confirm that? I should say.
From my recollection, he goes. Well, this happens after Kiss, which is obviously a pivotal moment. But I think he was like he had already quit before that tour, if I'm not mistaken, if he said that, Big Sexy, and then he negotiates with Prince that he was going to get paid certain amounts of money So he would get some of it up front and keep going. And then at the end, he'd get the rest. And I think he was like, by the time it got to the end of the tour, he was already out of the band. Like he said, I couldn't tell the rest of the band members that I had already quit the band and I didn't have to interact with Prince. I just went up there and played the bass in those shows. But then he talks about at the end of the tour, he didn't get that money. The last payment he's supposed to get. And then he goes into a whole thing of, Prince's side said that money was some other stuff that it was owed or whatever. Well, what I find interesting is...
he labeled him. Damn.
Yeah, it's a dirty game. But so he does sort of go into it. Now, correct me. Was I correct on kind of what I was saying there, Big Sexy? Do you remember it that way?
No, you're right. Yeah. He had a contract for that last tour and the contract expired and he just went on his merry little way. He didn't even reference that Prince wanted him to stay. But again, at that time, he had an opportunity before this tour to play with Stevie Nicks, and he turned it down. To do the whole parade thing and stand in the back of the bus pretty much, and he turned down these opportunities, and I guess he decided he had had enough.
He kind of say that he needed he wanted the money or something like that, or he was like, I kind of need that money though, or something like that. There was a lot of crazy shit that was going on before this that we'll talk about too, but go ahead, Big Sexy.
Well, because that's right around when Wendy and Lisa had initially quit, and they came back to finish the tour. So you knew this band was over. Mm-hmm. Mark is already gone. Wendy and Lisa quit, come back, and Prince is like, "No, I'm not having this." He let them all go, except for Fink, who wanted to stay.
And then, so before we get to that, let's talk about the Kiss part. And we've heard some of this stuff before, but it's just interesting. I always want to ask him. Maybe we'll get a chance to ask him again. Like, is it a sore spot when you hear that song, knowing that it could have been another way? But to me, I always feel like it's still Prince. Like it's still, to me, Prince put that sauce on it to make it what it is. Like, in terms of the singing and all that stuff. But I do wonder if he felt like he should have got at least a co-writing or, a half credit along with Prince, because they both make the song, if they would have just been that acoustic thing that Prince put out, it would never be what it is today. So they had to
wait. All Prince put out was, he had the acoustic thing as just like a little idea. We don't know what he would have done with it.
Right. And he may not have done nothing with it. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
If he might not have even gave it to them, he'd just been like, whatever, go on to something else. But they did make that beat, and a lot of the stuff you hear, the music of it, sound the way it sounds, and that's Maserati singing in the background. And the way that he describes the way Prince sort of talking to him about it, like, this song would be better if it was under me, which makes total sense to me, and that happens all the time in the music game. Like, you might be an up and coming producer and have a dope ass song, but they're like, dude, if we let Beyonce sing this shit is going to be a smash versus you singing the shit that don't nobody know about.
That's Ashanti.
So I understand that. It's just, to me, like, I guess I would have said this. BrownMark should have had his paperwork in order.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been like, okay, for sure. Now, Prince could have said, we ain't doing that shit. But he at least should have said, you know what, man, let's put this on the books, homie. Let's just make sure it's in writing. So you said we can do this, cool. I'm going to get half credit, so there won't be no mistakes. Or Prince would say, well, I don't do the contracts. Go talk to my lawyer. Fine. I'll have my manager go talk to your manager. We're going to get this straight. But the way he describes it, we already know the story of how they made the song. But he's like, he said he was watching MTV one day or something, and the video brought debuts on MTV, and he's got Wendy in there and nobody else from the band. I know he would have been, I would have been hot. I'm like, nigga, that's a song I helped make, and you got old girl in the video, and I don't even know nothing about it, and I don't know if I'm getting my money. And he called Prince. What did he say? He called Prince immediately. Yo, what's going on? I laughed again because I could see Mark, I don't have to ask for your permission to put my music out.
I believe we call that stunning him.
I was like, Prince is wild. But then that shit goes to blow up. And then he's like, looking at the credits. I don't know if he was talking about the album credits or the song, but he said, I was only credited for hand claps. I was like, man, that's some petty. I just laughed. I was like, Prince, wow, like, damn, hand. That's all you got? Damn, didn't even get paid, but you got the hand claps. Like, that's a petty ass nigga. But it was just that's a crazy type. I mean, that happens to a lot of cats, I'm sure. But,
I would be heated because how much that's generational wealth right there off of that song. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure that song could have made him at least $3 to $5 million since '86. Am I being crazy with that thought?
I don't know the figure. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna become a nice little publishing check, though.
I would be heated. Matter of fact, y'all go ahead and send your hate mail to me. If I'm BrownMark, I would have been like, "No, you can't die. Pay me first, bitch." That would have been my ass.
Wow. So disrespectful. So disrespectful. I mean, it's. I think I like this that it's in there because it's for those musicians and people coming up later. They can read this and be like, you know what? Have your business in order. Like have some paperwork. Business. Yeah, have your business in order because all I was just reading when I'm reading him talking about these interactions, it was just all of that. I got you, brother. We in this together, man. You do the time and I can handle it in your business. It's the way it's supposed to be, homie. It's all that homie handshake, but it was no paperwork. And that's just what happens, man. Cats are, gas you up and get you to do the work, and then whoop, it's on some funny shit. You ain't got no work. You got no receipts to back up your shit. You just he said, she said, and he got big money, so they be like, man, get up out of here. Go on with that.
This reminds me of something I just read recently also. I read the Ted Templeman book, and Ted Templeman is a record producer. He produced all of the David Lee Roth Van Halen albums. Now, on their last one as a band, the 1984 album, they were having trouble with one song. And Dave was like, man, we just can't work it out. The producer calls it Michael McDonald. Yes, that Michael McDonald. He goes over there, they work it out, finish the song. Fast forward a few months later, song comes out. Michael's name is not in the credits. Michael is pissed. Dude, get your paperwork, man. Michael knew, he knew everybody involved. He knew Ted, he knew Dave and all that. And Dave was like, oh, well, it's just oversight. Mike had to sue them to get that credit. Dude, you gotta be on top of your business, man.
Here's a quote from it. Stick with me in the band and you'll never have to work another day in your life. Think about it. We're doing a movie and a world tour. I'm going to cut you guys in on the money this time. What's the key word in there?
This time.
This time. So how much money he ain't been cut in on? That's what I took away. We need this time. Yep. Like,
damn. Prince was a genius. He was a genius. He had a lot of game.
And the thing is like, some of the Prince fans hearing this, it's hard to hear some of these things about someone that you revere, respect, and love, but they're not perfect. And you've heard the stories from Sheila's mouth. You've heard the story from Morris' mouth. You've heard the story Rosie has had some issues. So don't act like this is just one disgruntled band member that really didn't contribute to his music, and he was a nobody until Prince discovered him. What has he done before or after all those arguments? Fuck all that. He did do it. He was there helping him create music for these albums. He actually put together a joint better than Prince. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Well, to that point you said it was just a demo, but I'm just saying he took that demo and made a number one hit song. He was there. So yeah, he deserves not only the recognition, but the credit in the forms of the monies to be paid for that. And, our boy, he did people wrong, and he did him wrong.
Yeah. And for me, I actually gain more respect hearing stories about Prince like this, because I just feel like, you know what, man, that's that's how you learn coming up. And he wasn't some saint. He wasn't some bad guy. He was a real dude. Like, and stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, Mark is, if you read it from what he's saying in the book, I'm grateful for all of those experiences. I learned. This dude was a mentor to me. This was like high school and college. All this whole game. This is how I learned. He taught me. So that's part of when you being mentored for somebody, or you under somebody that's big like that, that's a genius. Yeah, man, it comes with good and bad, and there's always going to be lessons. Did you get jerked out of a check? Yep, that's a lesson. You better have your paperwork for the next person you deal with, or the cats that you put on when you're in charge of a group. You know, BrownMark was in charge of Maserati. That was a lesson. You know, I don't think you got to this part yet, Ampu, but when he talked about when they went to France to film Under the Cherry Moon, and Mark was out there, and he's like, man, I don't know why he got me out here. You know, I'm supposed to be working with my boys, the band, the album's out, and I'm in here working hard with Prince and all this stuff. And my boys back in the States start telling me, yo, your man Prince, there's some shit going on out here, Mark. Oh, no, y'all lying. Prince, they would never do that to y'all. Nah, man, I'm telling you. Now, y'all tripping. I'll see y'all when I get back to the States. And then when he come back home, his group is in disarray. They broke up. And then he's like, wait a minute. What? Maybe they wasn't lying. But that's, to me, a lesson to be like, you know what? They was your responsibility. You let somebody else have control or pull you away from something you're supposed to be doing. And you got people depending on you. They don't know the game, like, and maybe you didn't know the game either, but then you see what happened to his group. And really, I looked at that was his fault. You know, if the Prince organization was doing all that funny stuff, again, they only can do it because you ain't around to take care of your peoples. And then your people get thrown. Just that story sounded crazy to me. I wish he went deeper into that. I was like, they was trying to break up the group and fire the singer and have one of the singer wear a dress and start a new group on him. What the fuck? What was Prince doing? How he got time to do all that? He making a movie and an album, but he got enough time to go deal with somebody else's side. It was just wild. But where was BrownMark? You know, those were his boys. He's supposed to hold his boys down. So it's just a lesson. I just thought it was, you know, it's a lesson learned, and it's no different than all these other music books I've read over the years. And people, oh yeah, Dr. Dre, he said he produced that, but really I did. And this whoop whoop. Did you have it on paper though? Nah, man. I thought we just wanted to make the album great. But there you go. So that's how I see this one. It's not a knock on Prince. That's the game. They not just because they Prince the revolution, that don't mean the rules of the game don't apply to them. You better have your shit together.
So ultimately what Michael Dean said, there ain't no friendship in business.
Not at that level.
Fuck friends.
No, I'm not.
Get paper.
Well, at
no,
that,
I'm not attributing that to Mike. I'm saying that second.
Yeah, part. Man, shit. I mean, well, listen to his experience. I guess, yeah, you should think like that. Because you got jerked. But, you know, but like I said, I know a lot of people are going to hear this or start reading the book. I didn't take away as he was bashing on Prince. Actually, it doesn't come off that way at all. If you feel that kind of way, then I think you might be more just your cape is on so tight around your neck that any sort of something you ready to jump in front of the bus to save Prince or something. But he's not saying anything. He's not being malicious or bitter, in my opinion, at all. But that's just my opinion. What other things? To
me, one of the things is this is another life lesson. Because he was starting to do his band, and he had moved on the other side of town, but he would go back to the south side and be with his boys. And one time he did, because he had a car. They were like, "Yo, come do this run with me," and he had a bad feeling about it, but he went and did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And he went there. They came out with the cake. They came out with 2 suitcases. He said he didn't even bother asking what it is. And he was like, what the fuck? Oh, man. And I'm sitting there thinking like, Mark, run. Nope. He let them put the case in his trunk. They go do they run. And he's like, I can't believe it. I need to leave him alone. Come to find out the next week, one of the people that he was with got shot down in a drug. It was a drug thing, a drug shipment. And he's just looking like, that could have been me that week. And it's just like, yo, if you're trying to move ahead, sometimes you need to leave some things behind that you know for a fact ain't a good situation. Because, what if it had been he had made that trip the following week and it wasn't the week before? That could have been him as well. Or he could have been not killed, but he could have been arrested for transporting guns, because I'm sure they knew about all this stuff. So just saying, if you got some big dreams and you're trying to get ahead, be smarter with some of the decisions you're making.
Yeah, he was in the
Speaking
streets.
of being smart with gunplay, at one point in the book, he claims to have slept with a shotgun underneath his pillow.
He's on his Q storm.
Fuck out of here with that, man.
Come on, he was strapped, man. BrownMark was strapped, locked and loaded on these niggas out here.
I'm not saying he wasn't packing, but under the pillow, bruh.
It was hectic out here for
now.
the fans. The fanatics was on his ass, man.
Bruh. No.
What do you say? Like one of the fans got in his backyard?
Yep.
Drew down?
Yeah, like what the hell was that?
I was dying.
I mean, Minneapolis must be hella starved for celebrity. They go into the bass player's house and just chill. I'm like, God damn,
they were superstars back then, man.
I was just like, wow, are you serious?
They say everybody wants a piece of that purple rock to the stop. He had purple bullets for you motherfuckers. He's like, it was wild. I was tripping on that. I was like, damn. He's like, I had to get personal protection. Damn,
I can't believe you brought that one back either, Mike. I bet you didn't know I had a piece of this restaurant, did you?
Yeah,
It looks like I have to buy the whole thing and fire that man.
But it was, like I said, this book, I enjoyed this book. It was short. It should be longer.
It was too short for me. That's the thing. I agree with that.
It should have been longer.
And he didn't go into his Motown work. And
right.
If you look at the video for the song This Time, and I know I'm being nitpicky, but there's this one portion where Mark is, doing, and it's a good song. Don't get me wrong. Mark is doing his thing. The band is playing. Mark walks over to his horn section, and they're doing this little neck bob thing, which is just hilarious. I know they're not trying to be funny, but those cats are just cracking me up. And they were in time. Can't say they weren't. They're doing a little head thing with the shoulder, like, I'm like, okay, Mark, you got like that? Do it.
Yeah, it's funny. And early on, I knew I was going to like it when he has a whole Jerry curl story. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, you got me. I know that feeling. And then the part where they went to go see Alice or something. He kept thinking the person's name was Alex. It was like a gay dude that was the hairdresser. Yep. And he claims that's where Morris gets that whole persona from. Well, he was like, look at this mess. Prince is like, can you take care of this Jerry curl for him? And he's like, combed through and all the activator goop was on the comb. Like, oh, Lord.
Been there, man.
That was hilarious. But all right, any other last words on this BrownMark book?
I wish it would have turned out better for Mark. I wish he would have, had people looking out for him more. But like you said, this is a business, and if you don't handle business handles you. Bottom line.
Yeah. And Pooh.
There's a lot of stories there's a lot of good Prince stories, but there's more life lessons in there that I think the story needs to be heard. Needs to be read, needs to be absorbed.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. I would say it's definitely worth picking up, no matter how you feel. I think it helps piece the puzzles together, gives a little more information. And it's good to hear the viewpoint of a Revolution member. And I'm curious to see how this will affect him moving forward with the band. Because I'm sure people are going to ask, well, then why are you still with Revolution if you feel him? So I'm very curious. Go ahead.
Money. That's why.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Money talks. Yeah. one thing that's interesting, and this is an interesting parallel, you notice that Mark isn't coming out and blaming anybody. I mean, we don't know what the rest of the band got off that tour, but Mark's not coming out saying, well, Wendy should look out for me or Fink should look out for me. Whereas if you look at this whole similar thing with Terrence Howard and Iron Man, who didn't handle business, but he comes out and blames Robert Downey Jr. Dude, you didn't handle business. It's that simple. Mark at least owns the shortcomings that he dealt with. He's not blaming anybody, and he's not really saying that, you know, it was a negative, but he learned from it. But he takes it all on his own shoulders.
All right, and he was a part of all of that, so I think he deserves to still be a part of it. I mean, he was there, so
yeah,
it is weird.
And the piano behind Jerome, yeah.
All right, well, there you go. That's our thoughts on BrownMark's book, My Life in the Purple Kingdom. I already know the comments and reviews of this book will probably vary the gamut, but it'd be interesting to sit back and watch. And hopefully for BrownMark, there's more opportunities that come out of this. I think he's, at least as we're recording this, I see he's dropping new music and different things. So good for him to keep pushing forward. There you go.
I would say now, y'all can call me crazy if you want, but I want a miniseries based off this book, because his, like, and not even about the Prince stuff. That's damn sure interesting, but I think that's probably a large thing. But if someone could read this book and could write a TV show based on some of the stories he's told, I would love to see it. I would love to see that, because it's very interesting and compelling. I'd want to see that.
I could see it as a Lifetime thing. It's like
Lifetime.
I'm not. I mean, there's some great Lifetime ones and there's some sucky ones, but I could see this as a Lifetime show where it's from his perspective, and the Prince thing is only sort of, it's almost like a mythical character. Sometimes would come in and do these little funny, crazy things. But I could see this. I agree with you. I could see it as a
because like if you like The Chi and if you like season 4 of The Wire, the stories that he tells about his childhood and his teen years, I think are almost as compelling. Yeah. Almost as compelling that I'd want to watch it.
I agree. All right. Well, there you go. We're going to get up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed this. As I always say, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.